Happy Thursday, and welcome here to another edition of Husker Online Headlines. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, we're going to be with you here for about the next hour as Sip and I get ready to head out to Madison on Friday, and I'm looking forward to that trip, Sip. It's always one of my favorite trips, but we've got a lot of news and headlines to get through as we do every week. We bring you what we think are the 5 biggest headlines as we go into the weekend, things we've learned here throughout the week. And let's get right to it here as we kick off Husker Online Headlines. Quarterback questions loom large for Nebraska as the Huskers get ready to head out to Wisconsin. Now, we heard from Matt Rule on Thursday. Heinrich Haarberg is going to try to practice a little bit Friday. And Haarberg, he said, will be available in some capacity. What does that mean? Emergency role, whatever. But you get the sense that this is getting to be, it's going to probably be a Chubba Purdy day, but Jeff Sims and Chubba have repped all week. But again, Chubba's got injury issues.
I love this. I mean, I don't know if I don't have enough fun in my life or what, but I really enjoy going to kickoff and not knowing who the quarterback's going to be. It'll be fun to see who trots out there, right? It could be any of the three, really. I know you've been saying Chubba. You don't know. Nobody knows. It's really interesting, fascinating. It's good that Wisconsin doesn't know. If you're a Nebraska fan, you like the fact Wisconsin doesn't know.
And they all are a little different. I mean, they each kind of have different things to them. And I will say, Chubba Purdy is more explosive as a runner than most people ever would have given him credit for. And you saw that last week. I mean, he blew by Maryland's defense where Jeff Sims and Heinrich Haarberg weren't really running it at that level.
Yeah. Chubba can run a little bit. Well, to say it one more time, we say it every time we talk about it, but he was a dual threat quarterback in the class of 2020, the number seven ranked quarterback, dual threat quarterback in the class of 2020. So yeah, I mean, we'll see about Chubba. I don't want to build him up into something he's not. He hasn't shown much at Nebraska. I mean, he has the advantage this year of not playing, basically. He has the advantage of only playing 11 plays. So they kind of forget how much he struggled last year. I don't know what he's got. I don't know what he's going to look like if he has to play a whole game. Maybe he'll look really good. It's hard to know.
I always go back to Scott Frost when he was here. Like, he really thought that Chubba Purdy could give Casey Thompson a run.
Yeah.
I mean, they brought Chubba. I mean, remember, Oklahoma wanted Chubba Purdy, and Nebraska beat out Oklahoma to get Chubba Purdy here back then when they already had Casey Thompson.
Yeah, hell, he went to Florida State out of high school. I mean, he's regarded as a big-time quarterback. We just haven't seen it. And
he was Mike Norvell's first quarterback recruit.
Right. So here's what I hope, Sean. I hope these three guys, Chubba Purdy, Jeff Sims, and Heinrich Haarberg, in their quiet moments, talk to each other and say, look, guys, this is a good team, but we're screwing it up right now. I mean, we've screwed it up. We have 22 turnovers out of the 27. This is a good team. We got good defense. Our special teams has come around pretty well. We have a pretty good offensive line. Even our 4-string running back's pretty good. But we have screwed this up. Don't let the quarterback position should be the one leading Nebraska into bowl qualifying status, not dragging it back. I hope that they understand what's going on here. It's really on them now.
And I will tell you what's going to be a huge off-season topic of discussion as the season ends here in the next 2 weeks. Should Matt Rule reshuffle things to have a true quarterback specialist within his coaching staff? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what Matt Rule's thinking. Is Marcus Satterfield considered a true quarterback specialist or just a true offensive coach?
Yeah, I mean, we know he's staying as offensive coordinator. We'll address that later. We know that. But, yeah, you're right. Matt Rule could
shuffle.
Yeah, and say you're not going to coach quarterbacks anymore. You'll coach tight ends or whatever. But you'll still be the offensive coordinator. We don't have to change the offense, but we got to get a quarterback specialist in here. I don't know. Sean, come on. A lot of that depends on who the quarterback coach you're talking about is. Can you get a good one here? Like if you're asking me, Sip, should they get another quarterback's coach in here and reshuffle? My next question would be, well, you'd have to tell me who it is. I don't know who we talking about.
Well, and we don't know the answer to this either, but why are all the quarterbacks seemingly having similar mistakes?
Well, that's a fair question. And Matt Rule would tell you it's a fair question because he said in the press conference following the Maryland game that it's happening across multiple players, which means you got to look at the coaches, include any points to himself in that. So yeah, it's damning, but I would hope these three guys take accountability. This is not all that it's not all on the coaches, that they take accountability. Because if they go to Wisconsin and just play adequately, you can win the game. You don't have to do much.
If they play like they played at Michigan State, they'll lose.
Yeah, if they play against Maryland, they'll lose. If they just play adequately, 2 turnovers, maybe 1, that you win. Probably.
Well, you saw what the Illinois game. They played pretty well. They turned
Heinrich.
They turned it over late.
Yeah, that was just Heinrich, right?
Well, Emmett Johnson and
well, I know, but Heinrich quarterback.
Right. I mean, the offense turned. I'm just talking in general, the offense. But you saw for 3+ quarters, they weren't necessarily generating a lot of drives, but their defense dominated.
Yeah, it was enough. They were doing enough. Now they did fumble late, but you're right. Before that, they were doing enough. That's what you got to do against Wisconsin.
Well, in the Northwestern game, the turnovers weren't bad in that game either.
No, they weren't.
And when there were a couple, the defense held up and forced field goals.
Got a good defense. You got a good defense that's still playing at a high level.
Put them in those positions. All right, before we get on to headline number 2, HuskerOnline headlines brought to you by CHI Health. When we're talking about heart care month here. When you need heart care, you are in good hands with CHI Health Nebraska Heart in Lincoln. They're offering the community's most advanced heart care at their hospital located on 91st and Pine Lake Road, just north of Highway 2 here in Lincoln. The experts at CHI Health Nebraska Heart put our heart and soul plus the latest in cardiac and vascular technologies into caring for our community. The highly specialized team works closely with you to get you back on your feet and from a major heart issue that happens, offering the highest level of care to keep your heart beating strong. Our heart care extends beyond Lincoln too, with expert cardiovascular care at all 14 hospitals, with heart experts who live and travel to 35 communities across Nebraska, Southwest Iowa, and northern Kansas. More than 600,000 people will die of heart disease every year. Learn your heart's real age by taking an online quiz at chihealth.com/heart risk. Thanks again here to CHI Health for sponsoring us here on Husker Online Headlines. Okay, let's get into number 2. There's a legit chance for Nebraska's defense to pitch a shutout this week against a struggling Badger team that found itself down by 21 points a week ago to Northwestern, who is not an offensive juggernaut by any means.
No. So you're saying Nebraska could pitch a shutout?
Yes. Your headline. This is your headline.
Yeah, well, 100% they could. I think they can keep Wisconsin out of the end zone. I don't like to say for sure, but here's the deal. This is not going well at Wisconsin, this change from the Barry Alvarez blueprint, recruit a bunch of big curd-eating blonde offensive linemen in a lot of cases that are hulkingly big, and then run a power running game, and play action passes. So they've done what Nebraska did in 2004. They've gone away from what kind of made them Wisconsin. What they did? They went away from a way of life. What Wisconsin has done is gone away from a way of life, and they're trying this air raid, and it's not working. Why is this? Why do they have why does Nebraska have a chance to pitch a shutout? Here's why. Nebraska's vulnerability of late has been giving up vertical pass plays, explosive pass plays, deep shots. Wisconsin can't do it. They just literally can't do it. They couldn't do it before they lost Bryson Green. Now, Bryson Green went down with an injury late in the Northwestern game and was carted off. I guess there's a possibility that you see him. I doubt it. Even with Green, they're not very good with that. Braylon Allen is, I don't know, he played 3 plays last week and they took him out because of his ankle. They just don't have much offensively. Tanner Mordecai, 3 touchdown passes, 3 picks this year. I mean, he's all right, but
this reminds you, you hate to use the Bill Callahan example, but Wisconsin going out of like the historical Wisconsin offense into something pretty drastic.
Yeah.
And I think we just all assume that Luke Fickell was this coaching Ken doll. He's going to walk in there with he's in shape. He's young. He's going to just get it going right away. And again, it's not easy. And I think you almost got to look back at what Barry Alvarez and guys like Chris accomplished there. They stuck with a similar blueprint. They're getting off that blueprint.
They're off it
to do something different.
They're off
and they're realizing it's not that easy. And Barry Alvarez figured out a blueprint how to kind of work with what he had to work there with. Big bodies, big people.
It's curious to me when programs do this, and sometimes it works. And you could find examples where it has worked, but it's not easy, and it hasn't worked. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean Luke Fickell is going to be unsuccessful at Wisconsin, but it's a problem right now. Their offense is struggling mightily, and now if they get Braylon Allen back, which I think is a long shot, it kind of changes the conversation. But they lost Ches Malusi to a injury earlier in the season. You remember Garendo? He's at Louisville now, and he's tearing it up. He transferred. He was good in Lincoln last year. He left, and they just don't have much at running back now.
Well, and think about this: their Vegas over under was 9.5.
That's
wins.
Amazing. So they're at 5, and they have a chance to get to 7. But they're they play Minnesota last game, so
they could lose them both.
They could lose them both. Yeah, it's kind of like Nebraska. Could win them both, could lose them both. But I do like Nebraska's chance to keep Wisconsin out of the end zone and maybe pitch a shutout.
That Iowa loss, the Washington State loss to start the year, kind of got your attention. That Washington State hammered them.
Absolutely.
But then the Iowa loss, it's almost like they haven't really recovered. I mean, they were able to come back and beat Illinois.
Yeah.
Once Johnny Newton was ejected from the game for targeting, they went on a run, and Johnny Newton might be the best draft prospect in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah.
So that was a big hit for Illinois in that game, and they won that game. But other than that, it's been one of the worst months of Wisconsin football that I can remember.
Yeah, in a long time. You're right. I did watch the Iowa game. Was Nebraska off that week?
Yeah, it was. Watching it? I watched it in Kansas City.
Yeah, I watched that game, and it was striking to me that Iowa's defense basically knew in the second half after Mordecai went down with a hand injury that Iowa clearly was confident Wisconsin wasn't going to score. And that's when they had, by the way, Wisconsin had Braylon Allen in that game, Sean. So now they don't. You got a kid named Jackson.
Well, Braylon Allen might play, but he
might play a little bit. He might play. Maybe they get him well. I don't know.
His upright running style has proven, though, it's not sustainable to last. In the last 2 years in a row, he's gotten hurt. His freshman year, he was outstanding. I mean, he was almost 2,000 yards as a freshman.
He's a bear. So at receiver, again, I don't think you'll see Bryson Green, who's one of their best guys. And then you've heard of Chimere Deke. He is hurt, too. Now, he had one target last week. It's possible he was coming off an injury. It's possible they get him back a little bit too, but he's not much of a downfield threat. They just don't even have that. So yeah, I mean, I know some people are going to be, God, what's simple on? I mean, he's talking about a shutout. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they can hold him to a couple field goals for sure. I just don't. I think it's going to be a hard time. Wisconsin's going to have a hard time getting in the end zone.
I mean, last week Nebraska played a 13-10 game. It's going to be something like that again.
Yeah, 13-10, with a late field goal by Maryland. But yeah, I think it's very similar. To
and that. For Nebraska, I don't see them being able to. I mean, those freshmen over the top plays. Teams are ready for Jalen Lloyd and Malachi Coleman. Those are going to be harder to come by.
Yeah, staying with Nebraska's defense though. Nebraska's defense is healthy. I mean. I think
Quentin Newsom's the only.
Is Newsom? I thought Newsom's coming back.
Well, we don't know that yet for sure, though.
Okay.
I mean, he missed the game last week, so will he be a full availability? We won't know till that injury report comes out.
Right, but Nebraska's generally healthy. They're still playing defense at a high level. They didn't play well at Michigan State, didn't attack, but they came back against Maryland and were back to them kind of their attacking selves. So I do expect them to really cause Wisconsin problems.
All right, before we go to headline number 3, HuskerOnline headlines. Brought to you by Bauer Underground. They're helping shape Nebraska's infrastructure future, and they're looking for members to join their team. They've got open positions for laborers, equipment operators, aerial linemen, and foremen. Bauer Underground, searching for the best in construction. Visit BauerUnderground.com to learn more about career opportunities and industry-leading benefits, including competitive pay, employer-paid health insurance, dental, disability, vision, life insurance, 401k match, new top-line equipment, and a clothing allowance. No experience, no problem. They'll train the right people in the field. They'll give you that hands-on experience that you need to build a long and rewarding career. Want to learn more? Visit Bauer Underground on Facebook to view the testimonials from the Bauer teammates and hear about their experiences, the company culture, and the importance of their work. Bauer Underground is family-owned. They've got crews and work sites all across Nebraska. So wherever you live here in the state, they've got an opportunity for you. Like and follow Bauer Underground on Facebook. Come start your new career today. Thank you to Bauer Underground for sponsoring us here on Husker Online Headlines. All right, headline number 3. We're not even to Thanksgiving, but Ted Carter gives athletic director Trev Alberts an early Christmas gift about a month before Carter will start his new job at Ohio State as the president of the Ohio State University system. Very interesting development this week, considering the changes that were made behind the scenes to even allow this to happen. If you remember back to the summer, they switched the entire leadership structure, Steve Sipple, up at the University of Nebraska, where the president, not the campus chancellor, oversaw athletics. The athletic director reports to the president now, not the campus chancellor, which had never been done before. They did that all to appease Ted Carter, to keep him happy, make him stay. Well, he still leaves to go to Ohio State. Ted Carter takes the job as Ohio State's president. So in the meantime, he's got a few months left. Trev Alberts does not know who that new president's going to be. Ted Carter, with the powers he still has, by the powers the regents gave him, was able to give athletic director Trev Alberts a new 8-year deal with $18 million guaranteed in the deal, with a lot of look-in periods that will ensure that Alberts will be one of the highest paid athletic directors in the country. There's also a $3 million end of contract bonus as well.
Pretty good deal.
Quite a payday. If we see Trev Alberts, he might be buying our dinner at the Tornado Room Steakhouse Friday night.
Yeah, he got a good deal. You know, he's got a tough job.
No doubt.
Yeah, Trev does have a tough job and should be well compensated. This is eyebrow raising. It's eyebrow raising. I mean, more from the Carter angle. Carter on his way out the door to Ohio State, as you mentioned, leaving in January. Now, keep in mind, he can do this without regent approval
because they gave him this power,
right? So the regents didn't need to approve this. He had support, though. Ted had support
by two key regents, Tim Clare and Rob Schaefer.
Right. So I think, I mean, obviously Ted Carter trusts Trev at a high level. They had a relationship that dates before even Trev took the Nebraska AD job. When, Ted came on as the university system president, when he came on, Trev was still at UNO. Hockey's key in this discussion, I think, because UNO had hockey. The Admiral, Ted Carter, former hockey player at Navy, loves the sport, formed a relationship with Trev, and they've had a bond. And this is probably somewhat a product of that bond. But it's also a product of trusting Trev. Now, this is where one other thing I'd add before you jump in here, Sean, is this about Trev. And this doesn't guarantee success, but he does have Nebraska's best interest at heart. You know that. And if there's reason to be comfortable with this extraordinary, kind of remarkable deal, it's that for me.
I think the only thing I've heard from a lot of Husker fans, because we've talked to a lot of people around the state at our events, is the number of years. I mean, why 8? Like, how do you get to 8? Like, why not just 4 or 5? I mean, that would be, if you're going to come up with some fair critique. Why is it the stadium project? Is it to be in line with Matt Rule's contract?
But why would 8 years?
What is the significance of 8? Was Trev Alberts possibly up for another position?
Could be
that had other things involved that could have raised. I mean, there are a lot of things there we don't know. But in the administrator world, an 8-year deal like this,
rare.
I mean, Barry Alvarez didn't have a deal like that.
No, it's rare. It's rare.
Jamie Pollard doesn't have a deal like
I don't
this.
think so. I just know it's rare. So yeah, it was eyebrow raising. You know what, Sean? And I think they did it at a good time. And I don't think it's a coincidence necessarily. Do it during a late season game against a rival when that's what we want to be talking about, where it maybe doesn't dominate the conversation. And it hasn't. It hasn't.
It reminds me of when Frost got that random extension before the Wisconsin game.
Yeah.
In 2019, they took his initial 7-year deal and they made it 9 years, kind of out of nowhere. And this kind of has a similar feel like, wait a minute, Frost is in his second year at Nebraska. They don't have a winning record. You just took his deal from 7 to 9 years.
It's kind of Trev's in his third year. Some people would suggest, why not wait to see how the rule tenure's going? Why not wait to see how the fundraising for the Memorial Stadium project goes? It's really interesting. Most of the times people will say around the country, you just judge an AD by how his football coach is doing that he hired. This is different. It's a different discussion here because of the stadium project. I look at it like this. He'll be judged by how Rule does and how this stadium project goes.
And will the state Senate eventually have to get involved? With like a lobbyist that's helping the university. If they don't
involved in what fashion, go ahead and say it. How much money are they going to ask for?
Ask money from the state.
Yeah. How much?
And
quite a bit, I imagine I'll ask for.
Yeah. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Where they're putting everything on Trev Alberts to be the guy
right.
to get this done. I mean, they're giving him full autonomy that the new president, when he comes in, can't touch Trev. Like
that's always a huge, and again, that's kind of speaks to probably the length and the sum of the contract. He does have a ton of pressure on him. Trev.
Basically, the new president, they're going to hire a new president, say, you leave this guy alone. He's got 8 years. Don't even bother him.
Yeah, leave him alone. That scares me when you say
I know, but like he's untouchable. He's untouchable.
Yeah, I get what he's untouchable, but he's like anybody else. I don't think you can just let him go off on his own and do everything. He's got to be managed. I mean,
well, and what if it's a guy that he doesn't work well with?
Right. Well, it could be that.
And we don't know that yet.
But anyway, you have to acknowledge that Trev has a ton of pressure on him.
Because most presidents aren't like Ted Carter or Hank Balance, for that matter. Both presidents had sports backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So will they get a president in place that at least has a sports vision?
Yeah.
We don't even know that.
No.
I mean, and they may not have that president named until June.
Right. So, yeah, Ted, I don't know. It's a very interesting move out the door by Ted Carter. It's the outgoing person who managed Trev, handed him a bushels of money, and now Trev will be overseen by another president.
And there was no way anyone can stop him. I mean, that's the other thing that's interesting about, like, the Regents could not have stopped this.
No, not officially. I mean, I wonder.
It's within his powers.
It's within his powers. I wonder if the Regents could have gotten together if they wanted to and said, "Hey, this is unsightly." I don't know that people think it's unsightly. I think that there's people that kind of look at it with a crooked brow, like, really? But see, Sean, I'm telling you, I am struck by how little commentary and conversation it's generated. It seems like people moved on really fast.
Well, in 8 years in Nebraska athletics world is like 20 years. I mean,
it is.
How many people make it 8 years here?
Right.
How many people have made it 8 years here?
Well, that's a good point. But Trev wants to make
it. I mean, this also says, like, he's going to be the Jamie Pollard of Nebraska, the Barry Alvarez. They want him to be the AD here.
Well, I hope it's like Jamie Pollard. I mean, I hope it turns out that way.
Well, and Jamie Pollard's got to hire multiple football coaches. He fired Dan McCarney, brought in Gene Chizik, fired Gene Chizik, brought in Paul Rhodes, fired Paul Rhodes. Then he hired the guy that they got now.
Well, Trev's certainly in a position that if Rule doesn't fare well, he'll get another swing at it.
Yeah, unless they want to pay a guy a lot of money, which Nebraska's been very good at doing that over the years. All right, let's take it to headline number 4. But before we get to that, HuskerOnline headlines brought to you by Caldera Lab. Been telling you all about Caldera Lab this football season. It's a great men's skincare product. Helps you take care of your face, make you look young. You feel fresh. You feel great. It takes 30 seconds. Put it on in the morning, put it on at night. You put some stuff underneath your eyes as well. I do it every morning. I've been using it all football season. I've seen the results. I've felt the results. 94% of men who use Caldera Lab have seen results with the product. Women listeners, it's a great Christmas present. Stick it in your husband's stocking. Get it done early. And we've got a great present or a great promo for you here at Husker Online. You'll get 20% off Caldera Lab on your first order here. Go to calderalab.com and use promo code Husker. That's calderalab.com, promo code Husker, and you'll get 20% off your order. Once again, thanks to Caldera Lab for sponsoring us here on Husker Online Headlines. Okay, headline number 4. Some huge news in the Big Ten West.
Oh, God.
At Iowa and Northwestern. Let's start with Iowa first. Arguably the best defensive player in the conference and the best punt returner in the conference, Cooper DeJean, the corner from Iowa, out for the season with a leg injury. And this is massive because what does Iowa feed off of? Turnovers, and he's one of their best guys at forcing turnovers, and field position. He's one of their best guys at forcing great field position because of what he gives them in the punt return game.
Right.
Cooper DeJean gone. Now, he didn't play against Nebraska last year either in that game when Trey Palmer went off.
So, yeah, Nebraska just keeps – I mean, I hesitate to phrase it this way. They just keep getting breaks. And I just mean I don't like to – I don't want this to sound like I'm celebrating or Nebraska fans should be celebrating a young man's injury. But, man, Iowa down – they lose McNamara. They lose Eric All, the tight end. They lose Luke Lachey, the tight end. These are all very good players. Now they lose their best one. So it's a break. I mean, it's a break for Nebraska. They don't get Iowa at what Iowa was to begin the season. Now, Nebraska's not what it was to begin the season either, but God.
It could be a 3-0 game.
Yeah, it's remarkable. No, I still think Iowa will win the West.
They just got to win one game. Now,
win one damn game.
Think about this, though. Nebraska wins in Madison, which easily could happen.
Yes.
And Illinois beats Iowa, which easily could happen.
Yeah.
The game in Lincoln next week is for the West.
Oh, God. That would be
it's a West championship game.
Oh, God, that gives me a headache in a good way. I just want that to happen so bad.
You better call El Toro and just get him ready in case Steve Sipple's coming back to Indy.
I can't tell you how interesting it would be if Iowa and Nebraska are playing for the West. I mean, it would be remarkable theater.
With Brian Ferentz in his last regular season game as a Hawkeye, and maybe Kirk Ferentz for all we know. I mean,
remarkable theater that would be. Remarkable. And come on, Nebraska. I mean, you can do this. You can do this. You can beat Wisconsin.
I give it like a 30% chance of that playing out. What would you give it? That Iowa and Nebraska
a little higher.
So no. That
that they would be playing for the West. I wouldn't go that high.
15.
Yeah.
15% chance. Okay.
30's pretty high.
30's pretty high. But I mean, we're talking about the Big Ten
Illinois
West.
now. You're counting on Illinois.
Illinois is good. They went off last week.
Strange move by Bielema this week to go back to Altmaier. I don't understand it. He goes back to Altmaier as the starter after John Paddock throws for 502 yards. I don't like why are we going back to Altmaier? Because you know why? Because he says you don't lose your job to injury.
They won though, right?
Sometimes you do lose your job to injury. I mean, come on. But anyway, yeah, 15's. I guess I'll take that. I give Nebraska a good chance. Well, we'll discuss it at the end, but a good chance to beat Wisconsin. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, and then you have Northwestern.
Big news.
They are reportedly going to remove the interim tag off David Braun. I know Pete Thamel reported that, and Northwestern hasn't announced it as well. And
they have or they have?
They have. David Braun named the head coach at Northwestern, here to stay. That was announced today. Pete Thamel broke that yesterday as well on Wednesday. But their version of Mickey Joseph in an interim all-season role worked out. And I think Northwestern, I wrote this today in our article on Husker Online, it's a different job. Like, you can't just restock that roster through the portal.
Good point.
Like, you can't just transfer to Northwestern.
No, you can't.
Like, that's not a school for everyone.
No.
I mean, it's really hard to get in there. Like, Like, there are entire high schools that you go to where you might have one kid that could get into Northwestern.
Good God.
And they're not just going to let a bunch of transfer portal guys go in there and hand out those degrees. So I think the challenges there are unique. and they need to keep their roster in place because clearly they have a pretty decent roster.
Not too bad. You saw it firsthand. I mean, they really hit you on defense. And when they have Brendan Sullivan or Ben Bryant, excuse me, when they have Ben Bryant playing quarterback, I mean, they're pretty salty. Now they got 5 wins, chance to get 7. I mean, Sean, in our private conversations, I've sort of said, does Northwestern, should they make this decision to keep Braun? It felt emotional to me, but man, if they win 7 or even 6, I mean, I get it. I get it. Where you have to be careful in these situations is like Mississippi State with Zach Arnett. Mississippi State went with Zach Arnett. It didn't work.
Yeah,
it didn't work. Okay.
The tragedy of Mike Leach was tough, though. Like
but it was an emotional decision. They went with a guy instead of going out and hiring somebody. I know Northwestern could have gotten a name. They could. There's guys interested in that job.
I think the fear, though, of having to find like 40 new players in 1 year to meet the qualification standards to transfer to Northwestern and high school recruits. I mean, this is not Nebraska where you can get in with a 17 on your ACT.
Yeah, it's tricky. You're right. It couldn't have been. I mean, it was easy probably from the standpoint that you can really sell it to the fan base because it's a nice story and it plays to your emotions. So it makes sense, and it'll really make sense if they win a couple more.
He's having a better year than anyone ever projected for Pat Fitzgerald with the same roster.
Absolutely.
People revered Pat Fitzgerald as one of the best coaches in the league.
This is a Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Probably. This same team went one. Now I'm a voter on that, and today, if I had a vote, I'd vote him Big Ten Coach of the Year. Or should I just vote Harbaugh? So everyone says, "Who's the guy that voted for Harbaugh?"
Yeah, don't do that.
No, I'm just kidding.
Unless you want a lot of attention.
I get like Ohio State talk shows going after me.
Yeah, you'd get more attention than you'd ever want.
No, yeah, like the people that you've been a voter on the AP. Did you ever mess up where like you got like called out for a mistake?
Maybe one time, but nothing major.
It's easy to do though.
Yeah, if you don't, it is really.
I just got my ballot for all Big Ten today, and we have until after we have until after Black Friday weekend to get it turned in. But it takes a lot of work to put those football ballots.
Yeah, and here's what I'd say about that. I've always, when I used to do it, I hated it because how would I judge the offensive line? I mean, how do you adequately judge?
I mean, luckily, like Pro Football Focus gives you the metrics to look at, like the sacks and all the penalty. I mean, you have every metric to study. Now, I'm not sure everybody gets that, but we have that. So I use that
helps a lot
to look at the grades and the metrics just to make sure
that helps.
And I'll say like
that helps.
3 or 4 of the 5 are usually pretty easy to vote for on the O-line. It's like the last spot or 2 that you have to really. There might be 4 guys that you look at for the last 2 spots.
There you go.
And they specify, I believe, center is like its own spot. They don't want just 5 O-line.
Right. So yeah, those are huge. Those are huge bits of news out of the Big Ten this week. That Iowa lost DeJean and Northwestern named Braun. I mean, it's gigantic.
Then other college football moves. I mean, A&M is going to be looking for a coach. Mm-hmm. Mississippi State, you mentioned, is going to be looking for a coach. Mm-hmm. There were some other shakeups. I'm trying to think who else are we missing.
I don't know.
James Madison, by the way, will not be able to play in their conference title game. That was another college football headline this week, which I'm okay. I mean, that's the rule. Like they've put in this rule for every team that's transferred from FCS up to FBS. You can't play in postseason for the first 2 years. Every team's had to abide by that rule. So I get it. Like, why do they get to not abide by it now? Why would you? I mean,
it seems strange to penalize them.
Well, change it in the offseason. You can't do it in the middle of the season.
I guess you can't change bylaws like that. Although college football is in some ways odd to me. Like, why not? Just change the bylaw right now.
Because Appalachian State, when they transitioned, I think they probably could have made a bowl and they couldn't, Now, they're going to allow James Madison and Jacksonville State. They can play in a bowl game as long as there's not enough 6-6 teams to fill. Mm-hmm. And there's a chance if Nebraska loses both that they still could go to a bowl.
They could back into one.
Which wouldn't feel great, but
it would be something.
It'd be something.
I mean, you don't want to turn it down.
No.
You don't want to turn it down. Because it is, some people, Sean, they kind of try to poo-poo the extra practices. Don't do that. Those extra practices are meaningful.
They've stacked up a lot over
the
years.
They have. You've lost out on too much practice time. You have a young offense here at Nebraska, young players, freshmen, sophomores, all over the place. The more time they get, the better. That's a part of the discussion.
Okay, before we get to headline number 5, Husker Online headlines brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. We've chosen to partner with Underdog Fantasy here at Husker Online. They are super easy to use. You just go on the app, you pick whether your favorite player is going to have a higher or lower stat total than what's listed. You do it between 2 to 5 different picks, and you're in business. If you go 5 for 5, you can go 20 times your money. So it's a real fun way to watch, engage with games. You can say Patrick Mahomes is going to have more than 280 yards. Travis Kelce is going to have less than 75 yards passing. You can do college players, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL hockey, you name it. It allows you to have fun and do it in an easy way on your phone. If you haven't checked it out, check out Underdog Fantasy on the App Store. We've got a great deal where you can get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Just simply use promo code Husker on UnderdogFantasy.com. Put in $100. They'll double that and give you another $100. You must be 18 to play and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play, call 800-522-4700 or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Thank you to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. All right, final headline. Number 5, Matt Rule squelches the conversation about firing his offensive coordinator, Marcus Satterfield. And, Penn State made a move this week on their offensive coordinator, James Franklin, after their 24-15 loss to Michigan, where they made some game management mistakes, like going for 2 when they shouldn't have early, and then going for 2 again late when they shouldn't have. Just dumb things that really were questioned. On Monday morning, they made the move and fired their offensive coordinator, Sunday. It's led to a lot of discussion. Nebraska's offense has struggled. Will Matt Rule look at something different with his offensive situation next year? And Steve Sipple, he immediately squelched that discussion on Monday.
Yeah, he wasn't even asked about it. I mean, it was just part of the discussion. And I thought I thought these were the most important and interesting comments of the week. That he said, I'm not making a change. And he said, why would I make these guys learn a whole new language? He could have said, why would I make these young guys on offense, all these young guys, learn a whole new offensive language? That's what we're talking about. It's not necessarily, it depends who you bring in as to how profound the difference is in offenses, but they're learning a new language no matter what. If you do that, why do that? Especially, again, with so many young players. These are important matters, and I like that Rule got in front of it, because it's a common sense discussion, but there's no doubt that, like, the quarterback room, if Matt wouldn't have said that stuff, those quarterbacks would wonder, are we going to have Satterfield next year? That uneasiness is a factor. Now, Matt ended it. And now the last thing I'd say, Sean, is with Satterfield, it's sort of a two-pronged discussion. They sort of bleed into each other and they sort of don't. As far as his offensive coordinator play calling duties, I kind of give him a pass because of all the injuries. I don't expect much from this offense with the personnel they have. If they had Marcus Washington, Isaiah Garcia Castaneda,
it's the turnovers,
and Xavier Betts and Ramir Johnson and Gabe Irvin, and a couple of more, Turner Corcoran, and who else? There's another offensive lineman injured. I would Piper. I would look at it differently. Now, as far as the quarterback job and coaching the quarterbacks, I don't give him a pass. It's been terrible. It's been embarrassing. He's done a horrible job with those guys. That's the only way to say it. I bet you he would say that. I bet you Marcus Satterfield would say, yeah. You have 22 turnovers.
Well, what was their plan when they came in on offense? They were going to build this thing around who?
Sims.
And it's been a disaster.
An utter disaster. They picked the wrong guy.
Their plan B was a guy that is a tight end. That Mark Whipple wanted to move to tight end.
Yeah, now, easy. Heinrich's a quarterback.
No, I know. I'm saying when they took over the job, the notes that Mark Whipple left for them said that this guy's another position.
Absolutely.
Think about the first week of camp. the reporters asked Harburg if he'd be open to move positions.
One of the first questions to him. But and then it's your guy.
And it's your guy. And then Chuba, who's always been there, but has not been always available.
Right.
So that's where it all starts. I mean, they put all their NIL and poker chips on Jeff Sims. Amigos did. Acres Equipment did. All these people said, this is the guy.
Yeah.
Gary Michaels Clothing. This is the guy.
They based it on what the coaches said about him during the offseason, which, as you recall, was glowing.
In the spring. You hear stories in the spring.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote some of it. I mean, they saw something in Sims. I don't know if it's a 7-on-7 matter where if you see a 6'4", 220-pounder that has a pretty release, you might kind of fall in love with him and not think, okay, how's he going to look? How's Jeff Sims going to look in 11-on-11 against Big Ten tough defenses in weather that's imperfect and sometimes just terrible? Then what's it look like? 7-on-7 is, I think 7-on-7 can present a misleading picture
because it's clean.
It's clean. They're in short pants. There's no tackling. I mean, a guy can look really good in that setting, and it doesn't carry over to 11-on-11 when the heat is on or when the heat is on in the cold. And you see the Big Ten defenses, Sean, even these teams that we say aren't very good, just hit the living hell out of you.
Oh, yeah. Harburg hasn't lasted.
Right. He got hammered.
And it was not even the Big Ten games, the Louisiana Tech and Northern Illinois game where he got hit hard in those games.
Yeah.
And everyone.
But think about how Purdue hit him. Think about those
edge guys.
How they hit him, how that safety hit him down near the goal line. I mean, those are like violent hits.
It just really makes you the way the players are developed in this league more for the future of the NFL, like the old school Nebraska, like Crouch style offense. Like, could Crouch have made it through a season?
Good question.
I mean, I don't know.
Now Crouch was
tougher
than he was. Like a
leather. He was like that hard in the Big 12.
He was like a leather boot now, and Frost was too. It depends who you're talking about.
But there would always be like 4 or 5 games where you just knew Nebraska was going to win by 40 points.
Yeah, and you didn't worry about your quarterback getting hit that much. It's different. It's a different world. You see how they get hit.
The money in this league has equalized everybody, where they all have developed players and good coaching staffs.
Yeah, and again, I go back to the defenses. I marvel at what I watch from like Northwestern. When we saw Northwestern play Nebraska, that is a veteran defense, and they were crushing hits in that game. So yeah, and smart football guys told me in September, Sipple, Harburg, the option can work for a while, but teams will figure it out.
The edge plays too good.
They'll get better. The edge plays good. And then when it gets cold, those hits feel a lot different. In the cold weather, those hits feel a lot different.
Well, and there's one problem with the option. If they overplay it and put a man on the quarterback and a man on the running back, who are you going to option?
Well, that's the thing. When you play good teams with good edge guys, they have edge guys that can take the quarterback and the running back.
But a lot of teams have been putting someone on Harburg and the pitch man. The whole point of the option is you force a player to make a choice. So what if there's no choice to make?
That's true. But there's some guys on the edge that can handle both.
And then you're really in
trouble because the numbers don't.
And that the option pass play, it worked twice in the year. It's going to be hard for that to work against the next 2 weeks.
You knew after the second one, teams will be watching.
I mean, Michigan State threw that play down like a rag doll.
Yeah.
When they tried to, I mean, they're prepared for it. When they see a certain look and it's Coleman or Lloyd and it's under center
100,
they know to be ready for that option pass play.
Yep.
It's going to be really hard to surprise.
Yeah. You almost got to try to work off of it. But I'm not paid enough to know how you're paying me well, but not that well. I don't know what you do to work off of.
Hey, and I'm going to feed you well Friday.
Oh, why? We're
going to Tornado Room
and what's
Steakhouse in Madison.
What does that mean?
We get some steak.
Yeah, how good?
It's going to be out there. Megan, see if you can pull a picture up of this place. The Tornado Room in Madison. One of my favorite spots in the Big Ten. Robert and I, this will be I think at least our 4th time.
You've talked about it. I've heard you talk about it.
Well, it's old school. It's dim.
Oh, that's what I like.
And, it's 1960s.
God, that's beautiful.
And it's one of those places. What I like, there's the bar.
Megan's amazing.
She got the bar in the restaurant.
Amazing. Oh, yeah. It looks like
But we can walk in from our hotel to this place. We've sat at the bar. We've sat in the lounge before. The first time we went there, we didn't realize how hard it was to get a reservation. And there was some truck driver that was in Madison by himself, and he just told Robin and I we could join him at his table. and one of those little booths there. See these little booths?
It's a lonely truck driver.
And so we sat with this guy we didn't know from Adam at our first trip there, and Robin's like, God, that was weird. I'm like, yeah, it was. But the steak was
beautiful.
Good. It was
That's beautiful. I hope
we have a reservation. We have
there's a truck driver there that needs company. Yeah. Hey, we got you.
Look at those drinks. Yeah, this is a great place. If you're a Husker fan and you want to go there,
oh God, that looks good.
You can get in the bar. It's first come, first serve in the bar, but the restaurant side usually
we're sitting at a table though.
Yeah, we have a table.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll see you there Friday night. If not, we're going to be at State Street Brats, and that will be the unofficial media party Friday night.
Yeah, I probably won't make that, but I'll definitely do the tornado room. Tornado room?
Club room.
Yeah, I'm doing a tornado room.
So we will have.
They even got a jukebox. Don't let me
quarters.
Don't let me
bring your quarters there. All right. Well,
they surely make you put dollars in there.
We've got a great special going on right now this week at Husker Online for the Wisconsin game, for the trophy game series. By the way, the Freedom Trophy.
Yeah,
it's a Freedom Trophy, right? Not the Liberty. I keep wanting to say Liberty Trophy.
No, it's the Freedom Trophy.
It's the Freedom Trophy. The Freedom Akamaladin Trophy.
No, it's the Freedom Trophy.
But we got a great special for the Freedom Trophy game this weekend. 50% off HuskerOnline.com. You can get an annual subscription for half the price. It's the best deal you're going to get at Husker Online. That runs through the weekend. So check us out at HuskerOnline.com. New subscribers only on that special. And we will be live as well from Camp Randall for our post-game live show. We're shooting for a midnight start. We're told that we're probably going to be out of the stadium by a hard 1 a.m. So we're going to do our best to get close to an hour post-game talk, but we will be on live around midnight Saturday night after the Nebraska-Wisconsin game for Husker Online post-game live. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan signing off here for another edition of Husker Online Headlines.